It's on your personal page?
On the Selena Sessions page, and you should see it in just a minute.
I don't think we friends.
We're friends, Harold.
Oh, let me see.
Okay, so we're live on Facebook. Welcome everyone to this discussion. The topic of this discussion is men's perspective on women's submission.
We're not friends.
We are friends. Okay. I'm okay with that. And so last month we had the women speaking about submission. And so now I wanted to give men a chance to share their thoughts on it and just to enlighten women to kind of know what's going on in a man's mind. Now it's like I said, it's everyone's perspective. There is no right, there is no wrong. If you two can get together and agree and they're the same thing, then that's a match. You're good to go. So with that being said, we'll just do just a real quick introduction going around. We'll start with Shanton, then we'll take it to my brother Finch, and then everybody knows Steve, but he can introduce himself again, and then we'll get right into it.
All right, my name is Shanton Brown. I'm from New York, and I am just happy to be here to fellowship with you guys and have some great conversation and dialogue. God bless everybody.
All right, I'm Finch. Everybody's imaginary best friend, so I'm just happy to be here to have this conversation. Very interesting conversation, so looking forward to it.
Hey, you all, I am Stephen Means, and originally been in Hampton, VA for like 19 years. Recently relocated to the Atlanta, Georgia area. Pumped up, proud, I'm super excited about this conversation on tonight. 25 years of marriage, so I definitely want to hear some other brothers' perspective on submission.
And what's really, I don't want to say funny, but interesting is last month on the women's discussion, it was Steve's wife who was on the panel. And so she talked about how much she hated submitting to him and everything. No, I'm just joking.
Whoa.
No, she didn't. Go back and listen and you can see what she said. Okay. So, all right. So Brother Steve, I'm giving it over to you.
So let's start it out with the term within itself, submission. And what do you gentlemen view that word? What does that mean in relationship, in marriage? Is it only for marriage? Is it for boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other? Let's get some dialogue on the word submission within itself in context of relationships.
Very interesting question. I think when we first heard the term submit in reference to relationships, it was from a biblical standpoint. And I think that's why the argument is always, I think, inflamed, because it came from a place where some people believe in it, some people don't. And so when I look at the term submission, I really look at it as not someone giving up something for somebody, but the two people reverencing one another, like submitting to one another, I think is the key to a healthy long-term relationship, because we both have an understanding of the value that each other bring to the relationship, the union, so to speak. So that's my take on submission right now.
My take is just yielding to one another, yielding to the other person's needs, wants, desires. Compromise comes into play as well. A lot of times when you submit, you have to forget about your own stuff you got going on and cater to maybe what they got going on at times. It's not always easy, but it's effective, and I'm a true believer that submission to be one to another, not just a female submitting to the man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's interesting to me. The reason why, and like I said, no right or wrong, but I know that Shanton, you're a preacher,
right?
And so the Bible specifically says, and yes, it does. Before it says that we should submit one to another in the fear of the Lord. I'm just talking Bible here. But then after that, he gets specific, and he said, "Women, submit to your own husband." So when you said submit to each other, how is that? Explain that to me. If the directive was for women to submit to men, to their own husband, I should say.
Okay, well, when it talks about the woman submitting to the man, being submissive to your own husband, the man is the head, meaning he has the responsibility. All the onus is on him. However, if that man is wise, he's going to submit and listen to his wife, because the man brings a certain dynamic to the table, just like the woman. At the same time, as men, we can be hard-headed and prideful and stubborn. And our wives can say, listen, you should do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And if that man is wise, he will yield and listen to what that woman is saying to him, because 9 times out of 10, she's right. And, this is why the woman was brought into play. I mean, God to Adam said, listen, you got everything going on, but it's not good for you to be alone. You need some help. So why not yield to the help that God gave you in your wife? Because she's, he instituted females to help make our lives better, not worse. So why wouldn't we as men yield to the very person that God has given us to make our lives better?
Okay.
Finch, I'd like to hear your perspective on that as well, because it's great that Selena picked up on that, but that's exactly what you said, submitting one to another before you went into women. So let me hear your perspective on that a little bit more.
Well, when you think about that particular passage of scripture, the directive was them to submit one to another, and then it was given instructions. And how you look at that is this: women don't have, for the most part, don't have a problem loving, but they do have at times issue with submitting, so to speak. Men don't have a problem submitting because we submit to our bosses, we submit to pastors and preachers, leaders and people, but we have an issue with loving. And so when you look at how God operates in his totality, I would say that directive was to assist them with how to better submit one to another. Because if one, and now we're only talking about in the sense of a union, because you guys had it correct. It said, Selena said this, submit to your own husband. That's not a boyfriend, not a boyfriend. Submit to your own husband. So in that reference, God was talking about how to build strong families. So when you think about that, in a sense, you're looking like, well, if she submits to his leadership, if she submits to his authority, if he loves her in the way that he's supposed to love her, not the conditional love that we've been giving people, but the unconditional way that the one he serves loves, then they can operate in oneness as a unit. And that's how I saw that.
That was very good, and I'm gonna take it culturally as well as from this perspective. When we look at where the Bible and the context of the Bible come from, out of the Mideast and things of that nature, women are even viewed as second and third class citizens. So submission is almost forced.
Right.
But my background is finances. And we often say there's more scriptures in the Bible today about money than there even is about salvation. Mm-hmm. What if by happenstance that God in his all-knowing put those scriptures in there about submission, because he knew in this day, the modern Black woman has been taught to be strong on her own.
Right.
And not to rely on a man. And so when it comes into that union of two coming together as husband and wife, it tends to be a little bit more challenging for her to submit, because she watched her mother, her grandmother do everything on their own without a man, and the man coming in and out of the house. To the point now, what I'm starting to see is many young women, they may desire to get married, but they're not really looking for marriage anymore. They're looking for a guy to come through, give them a child, so that way they don't have to submit. That's just my perspective, what I'm seeing in and out of the church.
Uh-huh.
You know, what y'all think about that?
I see some truths in that, because you got to think about culturally what we're taught from both perspective. And I think in essence, when we're looking for healthy long-term relationships, we don't go into it with that recipe because of how we've been domesticated as men and women across our country. And so what you're saying, yeah, that we see that truth in everyday social media, everyday lives, households, because men and women have a whole different viewpoint when it comes to expectations, when it comes to things that should be valued versus things that are trivial. And we are basing what we desire to be with a man. Like I had this conversation just the other day, just thinking about a man takes a woman out, she expects him to pay, he expects her to give him sex, and the two just don't go together. But that comes from how we come into it and what we view as important and what's valued, and then how we look at one another as a man and as a woman.
What do you think,
So,
Shanton?
Well, you hit some good points. I like the fact that you brought up the cultural thing because culturally, it's true. You see in other cultures that the woman is groomed and raised to run the house and be submissive and be the caregiver and the nurturer, which is what women are. But in our culture, the Black culture, it happens, but not as much. My opinion, I believe most Black women are raised to be independent and self-sufficient and stuff like that. And so, in order for her to submit to any guy, it's going to take a special type of person because she's so used to doing things on her own. It's more or less the mindset of, I don't really need you, but if I want you, it's, you feel what I'm saying? It's a difference. But to go back to what Selena has said before, because it came to me, where it says in the Bible, says, submit one to another as unto the Lord. Now watch this. God is telling that married couple to, you should submit to your husband and to your wife as if you're submitting to me. In other words, you should treat him or her and value him or her the same way you value me. Because I'm telling you to submit to him or her as if it's me. And so, if just for teaching purposes, let's say me and Selena are married, right? So
teaching purpose, huh? Teaching purpose.
Teaching purpose. I had to throw that out there. So my Selena should get the overflow of my love for God, and I should get the overflow of her love for God. And so if we're both showing each other the overflow of our love for God, submitting and everything else wouldn't be a problem.
Good point.
And I think most women, they don't have a problem submitting. I don't think they have a problem submitting. They just need to know what they're submitting to, because they're not going to let you just drive them off of a cliff. If you consistent like the son, and you doing what you're supposed to do and being responsible and leading God and providing, guess what? That woman's going to submit unless she's just a real foul person. You know what I mean? Most women don't submit because men don't give them anything to submit to. And then they get in their feelings like, she don't listen, she don't submit, she don't do this. But brother, obviously you're not leading her right, because when you put your hand out there and tell her to grab your hand, she's like, nah, I'm good, because she was doing it by herself, going in her own direction before you even came along. So you're gonna, it's gonna take a special guy to, come on, man, I'm busy. It's gonna take a special guy for her to put her in that position to say, okay, I trust you to lead me and the family to where we need to go.
As the only woman up here who can speak on behalf of women for the most part, I will say, yeah, you are right. We women have a desire for security in a relationship, and that security is found in a man being a leader. So naturally, we are wired for that. And it goes back to, like you said, culturally, when you are a single mother for so long and you are taking the leadership role, it's hard to give that up. So we have to almost train ourselves to let somebody else come in and lead to take that position. And it is just like Shanton said, sometimes it's a matter of women have a problem with submitting because they don't trust that man's leadership. And sometimes rightfully so. If you're a man, if you can't hold down a job, how can I trust you to make the decisions in this house financially? You know, if you look lost with your own decision making, it's like if we're in a car traveling somewhere and you look lost, yes, I'm going to ask Siri, how do we get there? You know, I'm asking Siri, I'm asking somebody else at this point because you look lost and I'm not confident in where you're taking us, especially if it's dark. And so, like you said, what are you laughing at, Shanton?
Especially if it's dark.
Yeah, if it's dark, don't be taking me down these roads and you trying to figure it out. And we're close to E. That needle is close to E. So if you think about it, that can go deeper, and I'll leave that alone. But no, for the most part, I believe women are wired to want to submit to a man's leadership, depending on what he calls submission. But if you come along and you act like you don't know where you're going, how can I follow you? Where are we going?
Right.
I might have to bring this.
Fine. I was doing fine by myself. I got to all my destinations quite well when I was single. So what? Here you come along. Where are we going?
I might have to bring this back to the beginning, because we said wives submitting to husbands and them submitting one to another. Well, me having a 23-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old daughter, that man has to say, "Will you marry me?" Correct?
Right.
So shouldn't she be required to do some investigative background research or who she's marrying to decide if he can lead before we start on this journey to understand that he don't understand how to read a map?
Absolutely.
He don't have GPS. And that's the thing. We have to ensure that women aren't, and it's a teaching process and a modeling process, aren't so hungry to get married that they just jump in a relationship with anybody for the sake of I'm married, or the sake of it's better to marry than to burn and all of this. But, you know, if you marrying someone who his track record says he is not responsible, why is it all of a sudden we expect him to be responsible now?
Yeah.
But we say she got to have something to submit to. Well, you're submitting to what you married.
Right.
But I think it
Good
goes
thing
back to like what you said. Some women are not. These are part of the discussions you need to have before you get married. Submission, finances, sex, children. These are, but people are not doing that. Couples are not doing that. A lot of times because they've been in a relationship for so long, they feel like they already know what the other person wants. And so they carry that mindset into the marriage. And then but when you're single, and what I mean by single is like you could be in a relationship, but you're still single. Until you're married, you're single. And you operate differently. Because if he gets mad at you, you know what? You can say, you know, I'm going to stay somewhere else for the night. You're not getting none tonight. You can't do that when you're married.
What they doing together? What they doing staying together?
I was just about to say, y'all talking about Bible. What they living together? What?
Don't act like they don't. Don't act like they don't.
Hey, they do.
It definitely happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know.
I want to bring up something right fast.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think Shanton said this a moment ago. He was talking about women growing up or as single parents or single moms, or Selena said this too. We got to think about that for a second, because that wasn't always the case. At what point did that become the thing? And Doctor, it's so funny we're talking about this now, because I think I heard what's his name? Dr. Umar. He was talking about this, about how the government instituted that during I think it was during the Martin Luther King days, because if you look at the tactics they tried to use that to divide his family. And so when we start talking about women growing up as single parents, that wasn't how they were taught in the beginning. That was introduced to the Black family and to divide the Black family, and that has now become almost the standard. Like it's like a badge of honor to be a single mom right now, or a single parent right now. And so when we start talking about submission and all these things, I think we got to go back further before they become a couple, because I think every man and every woman should be responsible for the person they choose. I don't think you can get married and then say you're not going to submit to your husband and give a list of reasons why. It's because you should have known what type of man you had before you got married. He should have known what type of woman he was going into a relationship with long before they got to marriage. So I think that's part of our problem as a society is we're using the wrong recipe to try to cook up the type of relationship we feel is good for us.
That's excellent. And I follow
totally
Dr. Umar Johnson along with Dr. Claude Anderson, and that's called social engineering.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't just end up here.
Mm-hmm.
Recipe to try to cook up the type of relationship we feel is good for us.
Who is that?
That's Keisha. Go ahead. I muted her. She's good.
What Keisha doing in here?
We were systematically led down a road where we would end up in this situation because of the intent to destroy the Black family.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. We got to go unfortunately, it's not all the way back, but we got to go back to that period of time and really reevaluate where we are as the Black man and the Black woman trying to build together.
Right, right.
And, we're looking at it from a biblical perspective, but there's so many people in relationships who the Bible and church is not their foundation.
Right.
Right.
But does that still mean that we're going to have a strong community that the woman should not submit and the man should not be leading? No, it doesn't. Because that happened long before we came to quote unquote America. That's what he was doing. That's what she was doing. So I'm in total agreement with you, Finch. We have to really address values in our community.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something, Shanton. But I do want to say this too, because I talk to women who are not, I think Finch was the one who said at the very beginning, when we hear the word submission and women submitting to men, it was initially something that we learned, from the Bible, from church growing up. But as we can see all around the world in other countries, this is what they do. Women are like second-class citizens. And I think that's a lot of when I tell couples, first find out what is your understanding of submission and what is his, because his may be, you do what I say, how I say, when I say. Okay, if you find a woman and her understanding is the same thing and y'all get together, y'all are good. You two are wonderful. You agree, now go walk together. Mm-hmm. Now, my understanding of submission and my belief of what submission is this, and I mentioned it in last month. Sub meaning coming under, mission the assignment, coming under the assignment. So the woman should support the assignment that the man places for the family. Because long before church was instituted, God instituted the family. So the woman should support whatever direction the man is taking the family in, because he, like Shanton said, he is the one who is going to be held accountable for it. That doesn't mean that she doesn't have any decision-making processes, decision-making authority in the thing, because her decision, she might have a strength in the relationship that's part of the assignment. If she's better at administrative stuff, nurturing, then the man should be okay with, okay, this is you. I acknowledge that you're better at money than I am. You take that. He gave the directive for that. So that's my thing with it. So it's just a matter of, we have to agree on the direction of the family, and the man is responsible for laying that out. That's my belief. And if it goes wrong, it's on you.
And I agree with that. And let me say from the perspective, because you said it right. Sub and mission coming up under the mission. And that's where her responsibility before the marriage is what is the mission.
Right.
If the brother ain't got no vision for the family, if he don't have no mission that we're going after, maybe we just need to have a little bit more time to really start evaluating that and really start to come to understand that we're here to do more than just get up, pay bills, and die. It's more to life than that. And pretty sure she wants more, he wants more. They just may not know how to get there, but that conversation has to be had.
Absolutely. And I think that's where things get construed, because those conversations are not being had. And then you end up getting married, and then you're trying to figure it out. And then you get frustrated and annoyed. And then now you end up in divorce court about something that you could have just had some communication about and saved yourself a lot of time, effort, and aggravation.
Or
Okay,
someone you could have stayed away from.
so Keisha has a question. Can a man learn to be a leader?
Absolutely. He
So
can.
from a man's point of view, explain how that process works. I'd like to know.
You mean
Well,
him learning to be a leader?
Uh-huh.
Okay, Shanton, you had something you want to say first. Go ahead.
yeah, I'll just tell my own story. Me being raised by my mom and my 4 sisters, so I didn't have a male role model, right? So I had to learn things through the onslaughts and trivias of life. It was like on the job training, because I mean, yeah, my mom and my sisters can teach me to be, have character and integrity, et cetera, but they can't impart manhood because they're not men. Only thing about men that they can impart is from their experiences from men, but they cannot impart what they don't have, And so I had to learn that the person that really taught me manhood and to be a leader was my football coach, who's like a mentor, father to me. So it took another man to grab me by the hand and say, listen, do X, Y, and Z. This is what a man does. This is, and he walked me through the steps. You know what I mean? In my early 20s, when I'm already an adult, things that I should have learned, but my father wasn't in my life. So somebody had to teach me how to do these things. So it was learned behavior, because I'm learning from a man who was a leader. And the first part about leading is you got to learn how to follow. Every great leader was a good follower at first, because somebody has to teach you, or some things have to teach you. So absolutely, men can learn to be leaders, because those leadership qualities are in us from our nature.
So
it's a part of who we are. They just need to be tapped into.
I have a question that I want to ask you men, and this is me being a lady. I want to know from a male's perspective. So first I'm going to ask this. This is just a yes or no. Steve's married, Finch is not, Shanton, okay. Do you feel like your wife should submit to you?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Okay, I want to hear your no. I want to hear your no, Finch.
I just said it because everybody else said yes.
Oh, you know what? And that's probably why you're not married. But so my next question is this, because sometimes if we understand the feeling behind something, we're more prone to go along with it. How does it make a man feel when a woman submits to him? What does that do for a man?
Can I go first?
Yeah, I want you to, if you got something to say.
When it means everything to us, because well, I'm gonna speak for myself. It means I was married before, so it means everything to me when the woman is submitted. Like you said, she's under the mission of the direction that I'm taking the family in. And so by her submitting to that mission lets me know that she supports and she also believes in where I'm taking us. And we as men, just like y'all need security and consistency, we need that support. We need to know that, you down for me and you're going to push me and drive me towards my purpose and my destiny. So it means everything.
Can I circle back around to your first question first before answering this one?
Yes.
Okay, so earlier we was talking about now my mind went blank at that moment because I wanted to address about the question that Keisha asked, right? So when we think about how we are created, and we think about, for those who believe in the creator, God, Jesus, when you think about that, let's talk about that for a second, because we're asking about can a man learn to be a leader? I believe when you think about the creator didn't create anything or anyone incomplete. So you
Right.
have everything in you to be any and everything that you were destined to be or that you desire to be, because everything you become is not up to God. It's up to you, because you're going to have
Right.
what you say or don't say. You on either side, whether that's good or bad or indifferent. So when we think about that, I always compare that to a hot pocket. When you buy a hot pocket, it's already made. All you have to do is heat it up. I think along our journey in life, we learn things based upon our teachers. And when you take out the parents, because again, if we're talking biblical only, was it not your creator's instruction for you as a parent to train up your child, your children in the way that they should go? He wasn't talking about the way of the world, but he was talking about the way that he operates, correct?
Right. Right.
So if we're looking at that, and now we have a system that comes in that's orchestrated by the God of the world, in most cases in the Bible, we know who that is Satan, right? So now if we take away the father or the mother or the parent, that entity that the creator put in place to teach us, we take away the teacher. Now someone else in the community is responsible for now training up the child in the way that the child should go. So a lot of the things that we either complain about or observe that's happening with men and women is due to that one fact of we've taken away the training mechanism from the household, which again, if you divide the family, you have what we have in our society, where we have a bunch of people, men and women, who are messed up because of that dynamic. And so now when you fast forward and you come down to whether or not he has the ability to lead, I believe every man has the ability to lead. They may not lead in the same manner, they may not lead in the same category, but every man has the ability to lead. It is up to him to decide whether or not he desires to lead. So whether that is, I think sometimes when we're looking at relationships, we're looking at what he's supposed to know by a certain time period. But the woman's not also looking at the fact that she was created as a wife to be a helpmeet. That means the areas that he may be lacking in at this point, because his family was divided and he was not given the proper training that he was supposed to receive as he was coming up. Now, if you have the know-how, how you accommodate him is by teaching him the things that he don't know. And if he is the type of, you have chosen well, and he's the type of man that don't mind learning, no matter who is it, including his wife, but I would say especially his wife, then he doesn't have a problem with you teaching him the things he doesn't know, because he don't have an ego where he feels like you can't tell him nothing. If you have you can't tell me nothing type of man, you chose wrong.
I will say this too, and I'm going to say this. I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree, but I'm going to expound a little bit, because I don't believe it's a woman's job to teach a man how to lead or how to be a man. So I say this to women. When you start vetting him to see if he's potential, if he has some areas that he needs to work on, encourage him to work on it and go about your business. He is not your project. Let him go get himself together, because if not, you're going to be hoping and wishing, like Finch said, that he's going to listen to you. But he's not your son. He's not your son for you to teach him how to be a leader. So if these are things that he needs to, now, if you're already married and now you've grown and then you're looking and you're like, you should be a leader, then, I mean, you're there, do what needs to be done. But beforehand, if you can avoid that, avoid it, because it is not our job to teach a man how to be a leader or how to be a husband.
Where did you get that from?
Huh?
What did you get that? And I don't agree with the term you when you say it's not my job. So I always let's look at this example, because everybody here are Bible believers.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at
hold on, before you get into that, we'll speak briefly about this, then we'll turn this into another session, because we could go deeper with that, but we want to stick to the topic.
Yeah, I just want to address what you just said.
Okay.
When you say it's not oh, you teach women it's not their responsibility, it's not their job. I'm
Mhm.
saying when we're looking at oneness and we're looking at marriage, well, I'm not talking about boyfriend, girlfriend, but when we're talking about oneness in marriage, and we're looking at some of the examples that we have throughout biblical times. I mean, what's the couple's name? Gosh,
Kanye West and Kim Kardashian?
no,
No, not that one.
no, not them. It's the one
Beyonce,
who,
Jay-Z, not that
what
one.
is her name? I can't. Why is her name escaping me? They work with Paul.
Paul who? Bunyan? I mean,
Ananias and
Paul who?
Sapphira?
No, not Ananias and Sapphira.
Oh, you talking about the Bible? Oh,
Yes, I'm talking about Bible. I'm talking about
okay.
Bible. You got Bible people here. Y'all can understand that stuff.
Okay.
What's their names? They brought up my
Priscilla
man
and Aquila.
Priscilla and Aquila. So when you talk about it's not your responsibility, we got to look at that example. Look at all the things she taught him, but respected and reverenced him as her husband. You know, she was a spiritual leader in that time period. That's why you see her name being mentioned before his 3 times in scripture. But it wasn't because she was the head of their home. It was because she was more advanced when it came to the scriptures. He was more advanced when it came to business. He taught her that, she taught him that, but they operated in oneness. So when I hear people talk about, well, it's not my responsibility, I'm not saying you got to look at it like it's not my job, but I'm saying as his spouse, how do you accompany, how do you assist him? How do you be a helpmeet if you're not willing to help him understand certain things that you might be more advanced in? That's all.
And I totally agree with you on that. But I'm saying if he's coming to you as an undeveloped, where he's not at a place of leadership, because even though because you're going to find it a lot in relationships, the women will be more spiritually mature than men. You find that in a lot of relationships, but that does not take away from the fact that he's still the leader. So, but then you also have to look at it. Just because you have one example in the Bible, that does not mean that is the model, because you'll always have exceptions, but it's to show you how to navigate should you find yourself in that situation. But I'm talking about, like, if he does not know how to be a leader, then I can't, just like Shanton said, I can't teach you how to be a man. I'm a woman. Now, if there are areas where you lack in, then yes, I can supplement and I can be patient, but it's no different than if I come to you jacked up, you can't teach me how to be a wife. You know, so I tell men that too. If she doesn't know how to submit the way that you believe that she should, if she can't be a caretaker, if she can't take care of the children, it's not your job to try to teach her how to do that. So let her go and let her learn. If she wants to be with you, then you let her know this is my standard of who I want to be with. If you can't meet that, then we're just not good for each other. It doesn't make you bad. It just makes you bad for me.
And I think I'm gonna chime in. I think we're having one conversation, but really from 2 perspectives. And you all correct me. Finch, you're saying they already married. And Selena, you're saying they're in the process of potentially getting married.
That's why I was saying, you catch this at the beginning. That's why I said for you women, and I specifically said that. I said, if you're already married, then you're there, then you have to work it out. You have to do what needs to be done. But I was just speaking because I don't want a woman who's in a relationship, because we have this whole thing where we can fix people. And I don't want her to hear that and be like, ooh, he signed off on that. I got me a project because Finch done told me I should be teaching him how to lead.
I think I led with if you his wife.
Right.
So but women, let me tell you something. We hear what we want to hear. You said wife. We didn't hear that part, because in our mind, we're playing the role of a wife, so I should be doing everything. So yeah, exactly. I'm specifically talking to the woman. That's not your husband. He's not your project. And that was that. Amen. But back to the submission thing. So I wanted to hear, like, from a man's point of view, like, what does that do to a man when a woman submits? Because as a woman, I could tell you how it makes us feel when you put us first. Some women feel like the men, they don't put them first. So I can tell you from a woman's point of view, if you do this, you could probably get anything from us. So I just wanted to know from a man's point of view, how does it make you feel when your wife submits to you? And someone did ask a question, well, they texted to me. So you don't submit before you get married? Shouldn't dating be the, like, the prerequisites, so you're kind of feeling each other out. Yes. And so the thing is, when you don't want to be combative. Like a man kind of knows, like you don't have to cook for him every day for him to know that you can cook. You don't have to go to his house, clean his house for him to know that you can clean. If he goes to your house is clean and you cooking, he knows that you can cook. And if you guys are out and you're not always arguing and always, you know what I'm saying, everything he says is you got something back to say, and you know he knows, oh, she's not going to submit. You know, so it's just about that. Like, can you cooperate with, just as far as where we're going to dinner to eat? Can you cooperate with that? If we go somewhere, it's just that. So you don't have to submit to a man while you're dating for him to know that, yes, it's in my DNA and to submit to my husband. But I'm not submitting to you while we're dating. I'm going to cooperate, and I'm going to, it's good. There's got to be harmony and peace between us, but I'm not submitting to you because I still have my own life, and we may not work out. So I'm not going to lose myself in your vision, and we're just dating. If that makes sense.
It does to me. And you know, from that question about submission though, my wife and I, we got married, and then that whole submission thing even came up from a perspective of people using that word. And that was my second marriage. My first marriage, we worked together, kinda, not really. She did her, I did me. So what I came to realize is that submission is really power. And that's why I've always been willing to submit one to another. And what do I mean when I say power? When I'm willing to do anything that my wife asks me to do within the context of building our life together, there's nothing she won't do for me. Absolutely nothing. And that's what I have always led with. And she'll tell you in a heartbeat. When we first got married, and it still stands today, it could be 2 in the morning. She said she's thirsty. I'm running to go get some water. Now, legs a little bit, I might move a little bit slower to go get it. But I came into my marriage saying that I want, and I know you can't do this, but I want to make sure I can make her happy. You can't make nobody happy. They got to want to be happy on their own. But that does not change my mindset. I'm not trying to make your life a living hell. So what's the opposite? I want to make you happy. So if you want something, I'm willing to submit to you to get that for us. Because you are my help meet, but I do have to have something for you to meet, something for you to do. That's what I saw.
Yeah, so question, I don't know, I'm gonna ask Shanton, then I'm wanting to hear Finch on this too. And I love the way that Finch thinks, because he doesn't always see eye to eye with me, but I like that because iron sharpens iron. So I love to hear his thought, and I love the banter going back and forth, but it's all done in love. And I love learning because I'm not always right. But there's a question, and I think this is a good question, and I'm gonna ask the Shanton, then I want Finch to kind of follow up on it. And then of course, Brother Steve, anything you have to share, especially being married. The question is this: as a woman, and I'm gonna say wife, because we've already laid the foundation as far as that. As a woman in a marriage, she put relationship, we're going to say marriage. As a woman in a marriage, if you feel you're being led incorrectly, do you continue to follow to your demise, or how do you handle that peacefully? If you feel like you're being led incorrectly.
Well, I would deal with that a number of ways. One, I would have a conversation with the man. I definitely would pray about it and ask God to give him a revelation on the route that he should take, because sometimes talking to people, they won't listen to you. And sometimes you have to appeal to someone that they might listen to. And so, again, I wouldn't agree with allowing that woman to continue to follow this man, knowing we headed nowhere fast. You know what I mean? So it's like before you get to where you don't want to go, somebody got to hit the brakes. You know, if he's got his foot on the gas, but you know you're going the wrong way, somebody has to hit the brakes. So you have to stop him.
How?
I mean, you have to.
How?
How?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, I don't know if you got to scream at him, say, babe, stop. Or if you got to put your foot, reach your left leg over and hit the brake yourself, throw the emergency brake. You got to do something because, you know, why continue to follow? And you know, right here in your heart, not in your head, but in your heart, listen, this is wrong. Where we're going is not what we desire to be. And so I cannot allow myself and my children and the family to continue to go this route, knowing it's going to be destruction where we're headed. So you have to intervene some way, shape, or form. You have to. And so, I mean, I would even go as far as saying I wouldn't follow. I would, you know, I would tell her, don't follow. If you know it's wrong, don't do it. Do you love your husband? Yes. But you have to love them enough to say, babe, listen, this is not it right here. You need to go pray again.
As a man, as the husband, as the head of the house, who she's supposed to be submitting to you, and you may feel like what you're doing is right. Your decision is right. It's not nothing obvious, like, you know, you selling, you made your house into a crack house, nothing obvious like that. I guess it would also depend on what this leadership is. But if he feels like, you know, I feel like I'm right here.
It's only two routes you can take in that scenario, Selena. You either can just say, okay, you can say, okay, and allow, if he believes he's right, you can say, okay, and continue to follow him, even though you know he's wrong, and allow him to fail. But don't hit him with the, I told you so, this, that, and third. You allow him to fail on his own. And then if he's a real man, he's going to come back to you and say, listen, I apologize, and take accountability. Or you could try to stop him. It's only one or two ways you're going to end up dealing with that situation. And sometimes it's almost kind of like dealing with your children. You tell your children something, they come to you for advice, and you tell them, listen, pop, 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 pop. And you know they're going to take their big heads right out there and do the exact opposite. But sometimes you got to let them get burned. You got to. Because they might not listen to us as parents, but life has a way of teaching you. And that goes for adults as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Finch, I'm curious.
What's the question again?
What someone asked if a wife is, you know, in the marriage and she doesn't feel like she's being led correctly, does she continue on? I mean, what does she do?
Now, I know you changed a couple terms.
Yeah, because she said a woman in a relationship, but we had already established.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just in a relationship and he's not leading correctly, why are you there?
Well,
y'all just in a relationship. You have the ability to walk away.
Yeah, that also goes to choices.
Yeah.
Looking at what Shanton said, you know, I think oftentimes where we err, myself included, I've been guilty of this, is we try to teach people something because they're wrong. And if we're being honest with ourselves, it just doesn't work. You know, me telling you what you should do and you not deciding to do that because you're not at the stage where you're going to accept that doesn't help you grow. And it keeps me frustrated. And I think in essence, when you're talking about that, if a man is not leading, I think we have to ask ourselves the question is, where is it that you want him to lead you to? What is it that you want him to lead you to do? So when you say he's not leading correctly, what is that based upon? You know, whose criteria is that based upon? Is that based upon what we've been groomed to believe in society about how a relationship should be structured? What are we basing the leadership on? I think we have to start there, because he could be leading you in the way he think is right. And if you are not in agreement with that, then you guys shouldn't have got married in the first place, because y'all wasn't walking in agreement. So, you know, again, I think sometimes we don't have the conversations, the hard conversations we should have in the earliest stages of when I call basketball tryouts, you know, when we're trying out folks to see if they gonna make the team or not. We don't have the hard conversations at that time. So then we signed them to lucrative contracts, Lakers, and then we figure out at the end that the player's not good for the team and the team ain't going nowhere. And so I think in retrospect, we have to look at how we view leadership before we become a unit, and that way we're on the same page going into it, so that we see leadership the same, we see where we're going the same. And if someone is not operating in that manner, we kind of remind them of what we agreed to, and then we have to get to a point where we're able to make modifications. I think so many times we have things in ink and permanent marker, and it's like, I'm not changing this, and it's like, well, why not design it in pencil? So when we need to make modifications, we can use the eraser and readjust, because this is where we are now. I think so many times people go into the beginning of relationships expecting things to stay this way, and not realizing every day we should be changing. Every day we should be growing and learning, and every day we should be learning and growing. That means the dynamics of our relationship will change, and we just got to make modifications so we change with it. That's all.
I think that was really good. You hit on a lot of points, Finch, especially we always talk about submission, women in submission, but then we don't talk about men in leadership. And someone asked, well, what does that conversation look like? What does that, and I say, it looks like what it is. You just say it.
Right.
What are your plans? What's your goal? What do you expect from me? And like you said too, Finch, is you have to do in relationships, even with your own life, you have to do evaluations. You have to do health checks. Where are we at? Do we need to self-correct here? What's going on? Because people change, we change as individuals. So now that we're in a marriage, our marriage is going to change because we're changing. So there's going to need to be some self-correction. What you think, Brother Steve?
Listen, I am absolutely loving this, because, from that question says leading in the wrong direction. That means he's leading.
At least he's leading, right?
He's leading.
At least he's leading.
And then, but Finch said this, and Shanton said this, but wrong direction is based upon whose opinion.
Right.
But here's my caveat. I'm going in the wrong direction based upon your opinion. If you begin to help me in the direction I'm going and not waiting on me to fail, can we make those course corrections and still get to the end goal? Or have you dug in to say, I'm just gonna wait for them to fail? And that's both parties. And I'm not changing if she ain't helping. And so now y'all both gonna go off the cliff together. Whereas if we would just really come together and work for the family unit. Okay, hey, you think this is the direction that we should be? So somebody said, what do those conversations look like? You believe this is the direction we should be going. Let's put it on paper. Business is my thing. Let's put it on paper. Does it make sense when we put it on paper? We know that's a nice, I think Selena and them said this on the last one. That's great. You want to start a business, but why are you quitting your job and we don't have no money?
Right.
Right.
That could be considered leading in the wrong direction.
Yep.
And as a woman, that's scary. That is scary for a woman.
But hold on. But you know I got a great business plan, and your job will allow us to still survive while we get it off the ground. You just don't want to contribute.
Oh. Ooh.
That's good, brother.
Because you want to be on the job so you can be secure, but I'm trying to get us free.
That part. Come on, Steve. Come on, man.
How about I stay on the job for another year and a half, 2 years, and you help me with your time, energy, and effort. Help me.
Right.
That's just from that one scenario. But typically, I want to say that most men are attempting to lead, but they never had a model of what true leadership looks like, especially in this age demographic of Black men, because the Black man was snatched out of the home and certain negative aspects was put in place of. Thank God for my grandfather, because just like I believe it was Shanton, my father was not there either. He was consumed by the situation of the inner city. But thank God I did have a role model of a grandfather who got up, went to work every day, provided. But the flip side was, up until he was 70, he drank every day, was an alcoholic. So it's some yin and a yang. And we said this, my wife is the strong spiritual person in our relationship. Thank God for her. Because she probably helped save my life along the way. Because, you know, my mindset coming out of Gary, Indiana, I'm going to get it. We go win by all means necessary. But because I had a young lady at that time when we were dating who was in the church, none but the grace of God that she allowed me to even be in her life, because I was at the club, she was at the church. Okay. They would say she made a bad decision. Actually, they did say she made a bad decision. But 25 years later. But because she was strong in that area, but my strength is in business. My strength is in finances. So it has to be a desire for both parties to want to win. That's the end of the day. Because if the home team ain't winning, ain't nobody winning. It don't matter. Greater Finch got a great life. Selena got a great life. Shanton, who cares if the home team ain't winning?
Right.
And that's where they have to be working together. And sometimes she may come up with the idea. A lot of times, not sometimes. The Black woman is the most educated woman on the planet today. But she still needs that leadership, because now it looks like we just got a whole lot of student loans and a job still. So that's just my little 2 cents.
No, that's good though. It's good. And we said so much and a lot. What it all boils down to when it comes to relationship, communication. And these are the conversations that you need to have up front. The hard talks, get them out the way up front, so you're not having to sit in front of somebody else years later for them to try to help sort it out for you. Like I said, submission, finances, sex, all that stuff.
But the reality of it is, it goes back to what we talked about before. We don't know what we don't know. So there has to be a role model. There has to be a counselor. There has to be somebody to help the next generation through that process, or they're going to make the same mistakes that some of us have made. They got to see somebody that can help them. And mom and daddy who never was together is not the picture to look at.
All right.
Well, I agree. I love everything everybody had to say. See, I go out and I search for intelligent men. And that's what I say. Can you talk right? Can you formulate a sentence? Can you convey your opinion in an intelligent way where people want to listen? And I thank you all for that. I thank you for just the conversation, and it's ongoing conversations, because I talk to you guys, you know, continually. We always have conversations like this. But my goal is really for people to learn, because like you said, you don't know what you don't know. If you don't know that you don't know it, how do you know that you don't know it? Listen to people sometimes. Everybody's not lying to you when they tell you things about you. If all your friends tell you that you mean, they're not lying to you, you mean. So listen to people, humble yourself. So again, thank you. And I think I kind of know what I want my next topic to be. I want to talk about men and leadership. We got to get this together, because let me tell you something. Women are attracted to men in authority. Why do you think it's so easy for cops and all these people, CEOs, to have side pieces? Because women are attracted to men in authority. And it's about leadership and confidence. You don't see the trash man out here getting a whole bunch of side pieces. Nothing against trash. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, let's be honest out here. Because
you talking about the sanitation executive?
They make good money. They make good money. I'm just saying, you don't see the people down, you know, you see the bosses. They're the ones that have the options, because women are attracted to men in authority. And don't go talking about me because I said that, because let me tell you something. Yes, I will date a man who takes out the trash. But first of all, that's attractive. To see a man go take out the trash, I like that. Don't let that trash just sit there. But anyways.
But hold on, are you talking about the man who takes out the trash at the house, or who takes out the trash for the whole community?
If he gets paid for it, then the whole community, but don't just go doing it just to be doing it. Okay. But my point was this, that women are attracted to men who walk in confidence and who have that sense of authority about them. It is attractive. We are wired that way. So yes, I don't think that we have a problem submitting if you can lead us in a way that makes us feel comfortable. But like you said, what's the definition of right or wrong direction? That's the conversation you need to have at the beginning.
Yep.
And with that being said, is there anything anybody wants to say before I let Brother Steve take us out?
Yeah, I want to say first, thanks for having me. I absolutely enjoyed everyone. I love the dialogue, the conversation. I actually regret the times that I've missed when you invited me in the past. So, you know, I look forward to being back on the panel again. And yeah, I really enjoyed myself, and salute to everybody.
Thank you. And Finch, also catch Finch on his podcast on Tuesday. I enjoy them.
Oh, thank you so
I
much.
do.
Yeah.
I do.
Tuesdays, or you can listen to it on all the podcast stream platforms and watch it on Facebook, on YouTube. Sorry.
Awesome. Well, this has been absolutely phenomenal. And as usual, I always say, Selena, thank you so very much for putting these together. I'm excited about us growing all these platforms because it is absolutely making our communities better. And gentlemen, you all have been absolutely phenomenal. We're definitely going to connect outside of this forum because it's good to meet like-minded men, because each one teach one, and that's how we're going to change our communities, because we're stronger together. Amen. So I'm going to go ahead and pray us out. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time of sharing on tonight. We thank you that hearts and minds have been changed, seeds have been planted, and people have been given something to think about. We say thank you right now for Selena, Father God. Continuously bless her, Lord Jesus. Give her the courage to continue to have the hard conversations. Continue to lead her to the correct people that even just gel together. You know, a lot of people have great ideas and great information, but they aren't knitted together when they come together. So we just say thank you for this that she puts together. And we say thank you so much for Keisha. And Keisha, we know that it ain't you who be asking them questions. We appreciate you for all that you do to move this platform forward. In Jesus' name, we say thank you so very much. Amen.
Amen.